All right, hello. So this is a video for you all. It is not a note video. Those will occur later in our classroom. I just wanted to provide an additional resource for our class to help you all with your homework so you can see some examples. Okay, so what I have for you all is just two examples, one for reverse tabular method and then another for long division algorithm. These are both the same type of problem to show that you can apply the same rules, but the method that you're used or is used is different. That's the only difference here. So same problem, so we should end up getting the same quotient for both of these. All right, so here, recognizing recognizing that we want to figure out what the quotient is, right? So we don't know what that is. And with reverse tabular method, we want to follow the same rules of checking what we need first before we go ahead and apply our reverse box method. So here, step one is to always check for placeholders. So you want to check for placeholders. And you also want to check for if there's a need of rearranging for standard form. So check for standard form. And so let's go ahead and do that. So here I can see clearly that I have 3 and then 2, and then I have my constant, right, which is technically x to the 0 power, because anything raised to the 0 power is 1, but that's not necessary to really dive into in this video. But we can recognize that we're missing a term here. We're missing our x to the first term, or our x term. So we go ahead and just rewrite this problem. So we have 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus a 0x term, which is technically to the first power, and then finally our constant. And then we divide by our divisor, which is x minus 2. And this one does not have a missing term because we have x to the first, and then it goes straight to our constant, and recalling that this is technically x to the 0, which is 1. Okay, moving on. So how do we create our box? So step 3 in this case is creating the box or tabular method, right? So this takes a bit of time, maybe for some of you, maybe some guessing and checking, but always your divisor tells you how many rows you have, right? So we have our divisor, so I'm going to create a box here. And this one ends up having 2 terms, 2x as a term, and then the minus 2, right, as a second term. So that's why we have 2 rows. Now, for the columns, you can always try to guess and check from that. But another quick way is recognizing that this is to the first power, okay? And so a way to find the columns, so number 3, I guess B, we can call this A. So 3B would be subtracting the highest coefficient from the dividend, subtract that from the highest coefficient of the divisor. So in this case, you can do 3 minus 1, which are these values here, 3 minus 1, and so you all can see what I'm doing. So 3 minus 1, here's the 3, here's the 1. And then we get 2. Oops. We get 2. And what you do at the very end is always add 1 to it. So it's 3. And this number is the number of columns that you get. Now, if I totally just lost you on that, that's okay. You can always just guess and check here, and making sure that each diagonal has a space for your following terms, right? So we have one term, x to the third. So we know this is going to be 2x to the third. This diagonal needs to add up to negative 4x squared. this diagonal needs to add up to 0x, a positive 0x, and then here, positive 2. Right, that's one way you can also check as well. So those of you that want to always accurately find it, you take the difference of the two leading exponents and then add 1 every time. That's one way you could do it. All right, so we go ahead and fill in these boxes, and we know our first term is 2x cubed. Do not assume that this will always equal positive 2 or the constant, because there will be a time where that will change, and I don't want you to get in the habit of assuming that is true. Okay, so here we go ahead and write 2x cubed, and we want to find the divisor, right? So, or the quotient, sorry, the quotient, which is going to come up right here. So we continue, and we go ahead and we work through this. So since we know what 2x cubed goes into the first box here on the top left, then we go backwards. So we ask ourselves, what in the purple section times 2x will give us 2x cubed, and we have x squared. And then we go ahead and start downward to complete this column, and x squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. Once we have that, we can go at a diagonal to complete this orange section. Negative 2x squared plus what gives me negative 4x squared? We get negative 2, sorry. Okay, well, I didn't mean to do that. Negative 2x squared. Okay, and those add up to give me negative 4, so then I go ahead and go back to the purple section after I complete a diagonal, and what times 2x gives me negative 2x squared? Well, negative x. And then I go ahead downwards to complete this column. Negative x times negative 2 is positive 2x. And here I want to get 0, so this automatically becomes a negative 2x. When I add them together, I'll get 0. And then what, back in the purple section, what times 2x will give me negative 2x, negative 1. And then I go back down to complete my last column. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. And that checks out. So then my quotient is what's in purple right here. So I can write and say the quotient is x squared minus x minus 1. Okay, and because we got since these last two match, that means we have a 0 as our remainder. So what we can also say is that not only this purple section here at the top, x squared minus x minus 1, is the quotient, but also we can say that it's a factor. Okay, so we can also say x squared minus x minus 1 is a factor, as well as 2x minus 2. Okay, and so recalling that a factor times a factor equals the product, right? So what this means is, if we were to substitute this x squared minus x minus 1 and multiply it times 2x minus 2, we should get our product, which ends up being our, in this case, dividend. And I'll let you check on that on your own, but we should get the original dividend, which is 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 0x plus 2. Okay, so you can check that on your own to see if that's actually true, but it should work out. All right, moving on to long division algorithm. So here you go. So we're going to do the same process, right? We're going to check for standard form and placeholders. So I'm going to bring this down. Okay, so the same two steps should happen always before you start. And in this case, we check for placeholders. We acknowledge that we do need a placeholder. It's the same problem. So we rewrite the problem, which is 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 0x plus 2 divided by 2x minus 2, right? So we still want to find the quotient. It's just a different way. and it's by setting it up in the long division format. So we have 2x minus 2 divided by 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 0x plus 2. Okay, now this is the piece that can get a little tricky, but we are still following the same process of finding the quotient, right, which is up here. Okay, so here we go. So we do the same process in terms of like what times 2x will give me 2x cubed. So you'll notice it'll follow the same process of you figuring out like what term could be multiplied to give you the first term. Okay, so 2x times what will give me 2x cubed? Well, that is x squared. And notice that I'm not putting it on top of the x cubed term because I want to line it up. So my x squared term should line up here, my x term should line up here, and my constant should line up here. Okay, so then what you're doing, I'm only going to show this once, but what you're really doing is you're like distributing this x squared times 2x, which gives you 2x cubed, and then you're also distributing it to the negative 2. So you get negative 2x squared. Okay, so I'm going to erase those arrows, but that's technically what you are doing in that process to get the second line. Now, here, we make sure that we are subtracting as we are doing that. So we do 2x cubed minus 2x cubed, that's a 0. Negative 4x squared minus a negative 2x squared, that changes to a positive 2x squared. So we will get negative 2x squared as our answer. If you can't see that, what I'm really doing for long division is I'm looking at this term minus this term, right? And so if you're a person that's like, I still don't understand that, no fear. Do it on the side, negative 4x minus negative 2x squared, and then you'll realize this changes to a positive, and you'll get a negative 2x squared, okay? So that's just kind of like scratch work here, okay? But that's technically what I'm doing in that process. Okay. All right, so continuing on, what we do, like we normally do in long division, we bring down the other term, and we repeat. So we ask ourselves in the purple section, what times 2x will give me negative 2x squared? Well, that is negative x. So then again, you distribute, right? Negative x times 2x is negative 2x squared, and then negative x times negative 2x is a positive 2x. Okay? And then remembering to write your subtraction sign, that's important. And then we go ahead and subtract. So negative 2 minus negative 2, that becomes 0. And then 0 minus positive 2 is then just negative 2x. So we get negative 2x. And then finally, we bring down our constant. And then we repeat in the purple section. What times 2x gives me negative 2x? That is negative 1. And then you repeat, negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. And then we subtract. And we'll get 0. And then 2 minus 2 is 0. And because we got our remainder is 0, that means x squared minus x minus 1 and 2x minus 2 are factors of this dividend. So our answer, so we can say the quotient is x squared minus x minus 1 and 2x minus 2 and x squared minus x minus 1 are factors of the original problem, which is 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 0x plus 2. Okay, so again, you can play this backwards and to see if you got stuck or if I went a little too fast. But that is it. Those are 2 examples for you. Good luck, and email me if you have questions. All right, bye.